You know what's funny? I can actually do public speaking in front of an audience of hundreds of people and I feel right at home, but just talking to my computer is the most nerve-wracking thing ever. So there I was, finally on summer break, relaxing and taking life easy when I jumped on Facebook and the first thing waiting for me was this post. Jamaica's High Court rules school can ban dreadlocks.
Oh my God!
Basically, the family of a 5-year-old girl went to enroll her at a primary school. For the non-Jamaicans, primary schools are state-owned / government-sponsored elementary schools in Jamaica. Now, this primary school in question is a top-performing primary school. So clearly, this little girl must be very bright. She and her mom went to the school for orientation, and afterwards, a school admin came up to the mother and informed her that locks were prohibited at the school. That is, no braids, no beads, no locking of hair. These rules weren't written in the school's rule book, so they had to be explained verbally to the mother. If the little girl were to show up at the start of school with the lock still on her head, she would lose her place. They'd kick her out, basically. That's what was intimated. When the mother inquired as to why locks were banned, the answer she reportedly got was that it was because the classroom gets hot, parents don't wash their children's hair, so the children with locks get lice and jonjo. If you're curious about why I spelled jonjo with 2 O's, check out this Jamaican language video. Now, I've already read the entire 60-page court transcript and judge's ruling on why this wasn't a breach of the little girl's constitutional rights. And the plan had been to summarize each of the judge's points and present them in this video. But then I read the Access to Information Act and realized that all of that work that I had done to summarize all of the rulings, I actually probably can't share or I risk getting myself in a lot of trouble. So I'm just going to talk about the matters that surround the case. And I'm going to give a general overview of what the judge said. Before I do, however, be sure to like this video, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to my channel. Guys, I put so much effort into this. Like, I read a lot of articles and research just for this, okay? Please, just give me the thumbs up, if only for the research that I put into this. Be sure to check me out on Instagram as well at YaadPikni. So, hi, I'm Lisa, linguist, presentation specialist, natural hair enthusiast. While prepping for this video, as I said, I read numerous research articles on black hair, on hair types, scalp and scalp diseases, lice and fungus, newspaper articles and columns, think pieces, hair community websites, among others, just to get information on this whole thing. So I really love talking about black hair and black hair care. And as a naturalista going on a couple decades, this is not decades worth of growth. This is just maybe 8 years worth of growth, a little over 8 years worth of growth. But anyway, I'm aware of the challenges, the biases, the stigmas, the societal pressures, and the really hard-hitting issues that many of us in the natural hair community face on a regular basis. For some of us, these issues are worse than others. Now, locks are a part of the array of natural hairstyles. And yes, I say locks or locks. There's nothing dreadful about this hairstyle. Natural hair in the Black community is chiefly hair whose curl pattern hasn't been permanently altered by chemical relaxers. That is, hair as it grows naturally from our heads. Loose natural hair, an afro, is literally the Black people version of this, and this on other races. Well, more like this, because natural hair can stretch. So don't assume that because an afro is small, that the hair is short. Depending on how tight or loose someone's curl pattern is, in addition to other factors like hair porosity, strand thickness, and so on, the hair care regimen can vary widely. Meaning these 4 women can have 4 completely different ways of caring for their natural hair, which is why it becomes problematic when rules for hair like this are made based on hair like this, or worse, rules for hair like these are made based on hair like these. Hair is a large part of Black racial identity. As Black people, i.e., Africans and people of African descent, we have the curliest hair types. And throughout the many different peoples of the Caribbean and Africa, and the Black community in the US, we can see that curly hair is the most common. What determines hair curliness? Genetics. Curly hair tends to be dry and highly susceptible to damage. So we in the Black community have come up with our own hairstyles, installed with or without extensions, to help care for and protect our hair. These are not just styles, they're function. And of these styles, locks are a part. Locks can be easily installed on Black hair. No lack of washing, no heavy gels, no heavy hair products needed. In fact, these methods are highly discouraged in the Black locking community. When compared to other natural hairstyles, locks are a lot less demanding on one's time. A single round of hair care, of hair styling can take several hours. But with locks, it's kind of a cover, wake, shake, and go. And honestly, locks seriously have the most versatile array of styling options that I've ever seen. There are 3 main types of locks, but don't make assumptions about who wears what. For example, not all Rastafarians grow freeform locks, and not everyone who grows freeform locks is a Rastafarian. Also, much like relaxing our hair, having natural hair, wearing a wig, or choosing a hairstyle, people wear locks for different reasons. For some, they're another natural hairstyle. For a few, they're purely fashion. But for many, they're enshrined in strong religious, spiritual, cultural, and racial identity. And if you don't know why someone wears locks, it's better to ask than make assumptions. The ban on locks seems to hinge on locks being a health hazard because of serious lice infestation issues the school had dealt with in the past. However, I didn't see anywhere in the transcript where evidence had been presented about these lice cases. Neither was there a report of an inspection of the little girl's hair. Maybe it was in a preliminary hearing. I mean, the mother has already said my child isn't nasty, so I don't know what's really happening concerning this. Like, where did this come from? Because there was no evidence presented. It's just kind of like we're supposed to take their word for it. So either way, I'm just curious as to how many past students with locks had lice and fungus, and what it was about the handling of those cases that made the school come to such an extreme decision to ban locks altogether. And my aim in making this video is not to embarrass the school. Just browsing through the 2012 school inspection reports by the National Education Inspectorate, I can tell that this school pulls out all the stops for its students. I'm just wondering why the stops stopped for locks.
Halfway.
Lice come with a pretty hefty social stigma. And we Jamaicans, we don't like nastiness, right? So an outbreak can be pretty embarrassing for a school. And even more so for the infected child and their parents. The psychological effect of lice infestation can be significant. And you can have a lot of anxiety and fear around it. And children really shouldn't be made to feel responsible for having lice or be punished or reprimanded for it. Sadly, I couldn't find research on lice in locks, just general information on lice. Lice, singular, louse, are indiscriminate creatures that infect anybody. So whether you're rich, poor, clean, dirty, from uptown, downtown, a foreigner yard, you can get lice. I did, however, find an article in the Gleaner online written by Dr. Tamra Tomlinson Morris, a consultant pediatrician and pediatric cardiologist, and a past president of the Pediatric Association of Jamaica. As many of us know, a pediatrician's specialty is children. Dr. Tomlinson Morris explained that while headlights are a nuisance, they're not considered a medical or public health hazard. They're also not known to spread disease in this part of the world. She further explained that having locks actually lessens the chances of getting lice because of the structure of the hair. In cases where someone with locks did have a lice infestation, the treatment would have been more intensive than someone with loose hair, but it is possible to get the lice and eggs out. Dr. Tomlinson Morris advises, any guideline, ruling, or policy regarding lice must also consider the well-being and rights of the child. This should be done based on fact and shouldn't reflect any personal biases. The fear of headlights should not be a reason to ostracize a child and is definitely not a valid health and public safety reason to ban certain hairstyles in schools. So this whole argument that I've been seeing online about locks being licey, well,
The lie detector test determined that was a lie.
fungus in locks can happen. And the cause is when soaked locks, like from a swim or wash, not sweat, unless you sweat like this. When soaked locks do not get the proper amount of time to dry and the moisture stays trapped inside the locks for days, jonjo can set in. The bigger the locks, the longer the drying time, the smaller the locks, skinnier the locks, the less time that is needed. Jamaica has a lot of sunshine year-round, so I'd imagine it's not that challenging to dry wet locks. Sadly, research on fungus, jonjo, in locks was also non-existent, but I did find a bunch of research that studied fungal infections on the heads of different people from around the world, none of them with locks. So kind of like lice, I get the impression that anyone can get jonjo on their head. As for the comments about locks having dead hair, I think you mean shed hair. All the hair atop our heads is dead. That's the only reason why we can flat iron and blow dry our hair with extreme temperatures and not feel a thing, but then cry out in pain when our hair gets pulled at the roots. Actually, that did kind of hurt. I'm tender-headed. This is because the only part of our hair that is alive is the part deep within the epidermis. You know, like... So the way locks were approached, including all the discussions online around it, felt to me to be indicative of hair bias. And yes, this is a real thing. It exists worldwide and it's bad. The target is natural black hair. Black men and boys feel it the second they decide to grow their hair more than a couple inches, but for black girls and women, it's constant, from childhood to adulthood. The hair on black women is a hotly debated topic within and outside our community. And even young women and little children are not exempt from ruthless scrutiny, regardless of hairstyle. There have been numerous journal articles, think pieces, court cases, and newspaper articles written on and surrounding this. Research done on the perceptions of natural black hair show that regardless of race, a majority of people were biased against natural black hair. It was seen as less beautiful, less sexy or attractive, less professional, and even studies that included the examination of white women with curly hair. Black curly hair was still seen as less than. And the saddest part about this is that these biases can limit the professional, educational, and social opportunities of black girls and women, and any boy or man who decides to grow his hair. Of course, black women with natural hair do have the option of straightening their hair or wearing a wig. However, this should be a choice and not an obligation for employment and education. As for relaxers, Chris Rock already covered it in Good Hair, but the relaxers used to permanently straighten black hair contain a caustic substance that can give nasty chemical burns.
Okay. So it'll go from my brown skin down to the white meat.
Right.
Wow. Now you realize this goes in people's heads, right?
Sodium hydroxide?
It's why you sometimes see black men patting their heads. It soothes the itch without the risk of their fingernails irritating their scalp, causing a relaxer burn down the line. It also makes for a pretty cool dance move. Black girls only. Manufacturers of relaxers are actually not obligated to disclose all their ingredients, but a test of what has been listed as fragrance was found to contain hormones, and emerging evidence is showing that these hormones, absorbed by our bodies through these chemical burns, are linked to an increase in the risk of uterine fibroids in black women. Add all of that to the hair damage, the hair loss, and the cautionary tales of amazing women like Isabella Bruckhausen. It's pretty easy to see why many black women are staying away. In Jamaica, a 92% black majority nation, despite all the representations we have of natural hair on men and women, and despite being known for locked hairstyles, the views of locks as nasty and dirty is rife. And as we have seen, this perception can have devastating consequences. Texturism, where looser curls are favored over tighter curls, exists. But that's for another video. Going back to the Supreme Court ruling. The 60-page document was split almost exactly in half between the transcript of the court case and the judge's discussion, analysis, and ruling. I'll be giving an overview of what. So I'd seen something online that basically said that the family's lawyer was incompetent and that it was this incompetence that made them lose the case. But from what I read, not only was there just one lawyer who was listed as the family's lawyer, the little girl and her father were listed as claimants. And the family's lawyer honestly argued the heck out of this case. When the ruling was handed down, there were many strong reactions for and against. A later article published in the Gleaner showed that the school reconsidered their acceptance of the little girl, so she should be able to attend school locks intact. Little one, I don't know if you'll ever watch this, but I really am so sorry that at such a young age, and honestly, this is the part that hurts me the most, at such a young age, you had to learn how this world views us as a people and how they view our hair. I really hope that this does not have a really negative effect on the way that you view yourself. You are beautiful. You are absolutely freaking gorgeous, and your hair is amazing. The first step to fighting discrimination is identifying it. If you're curious as to whether or not you have a bias against natural black hair, take the Perception Institute's Hair Implicit Association test. The link is in the information section. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.